Welcome to the 6th edition of Westway Lab. I'm filling in for Tabeah because her flight has been delayed. And as we were preparing for this yearly agents panel, every year we gather some European agents on this panel. Tabeah sent me an email saying, I'm not really an agent, I'm a manager. And I said, oh, okay, my bad, because I thought she was the booking agent for Joel Sarakula, who played at Westway a couple years ago. It turns out she's the manager, and that immediately triggered a light bulb moment for me, because sometimes, I don't know how it is in your countries, but we'll find out, but in Portugal, very often, the manager and the booking agent are the same person, or almost the same person. Only when an artist gets to a certain level is it the case that sometimes you have a manager that manages and you have an agent that books. So very often the roles are confused. And so when I got that email from Tabeah, I thought to myself, this is a good way to kick off the panel, because we could talk to Tabeah, if she was here, about the difference in roles. But since she's not, then I would probably ask you two to start introducing yourselves and tell us a little bit about your professional course, whether you've been in several agencies or doing your work as a booking agent. Tell us about yourselves. Davide?
Okay, I'm Davide Mancini, I'm from Italy. I'm a music addicted since I was very young age, and I create a festival in Italy in 2000. This year will be the 20th edition, and then I became a booking agent because I like to do this work. I've been a musician for many years, and then I began to look for other concerts for other bands that were playing in my festival. And I create a real agency in Italy called Musicstrada Booking and Management that is mainly booking agency, but a little bit I do management as well. Because as Nuno said before, sometimes these two roles are the same, are confused. The main reason is that there are not enough money to pay to people, the first one, The second one is that sometimes when you do booking, that nowadays, in my opinion, is one of the most important part of the work of the life of a musician, because playing concert is really important now, more than before, because you don't sell CDs nowadays anymore. Spotify, we know that doesn't pay that much, so concert is the only way to make some real money.
That depends on
Depends, of course, depends. Things are changing. I'm not against Spotify, I'm a huge fan of Spotify. Let's, begin in the right way, otherwise we will, And sometimes when you do the booking, you have to make some choice for the bands that you have in your roster. So you become a manager. So, when you have a band that playing live very well, you can tell to the band, okay, now you need a label. And this is the work that usually do a manager. Now you need a promo office, you need a press office, you need to do promotion. And you can work with that agency or another one. This is a typical work of a manager. So that's why booking agent sometimes become as a manager as well. And it makes sense, in my opinion, if the booking agent, have a good, know of the labels of the promo agency and as well. I do this for 4 bands of my agency. I have actually 12 bands in my roster, 12, 14, depends, But 4 of them I'm the manager too. Yeah.
Very well. Reinhold?
Hello everybody, my name is Reinhold Seyfriedsberger. I'm from Vienna, Austria. I got a booking agency, live agency there. We're currently rather small with 4 people in our company. I'm working in that field for roughly 10 years now. Though my agency is rather young with only 3 years so far, I was working for another agency before. We are specializing in booking and promoting shows. I'd say about 4/5 of our agency work is booking shows. Main focus, of course, is Austria, but we act as head agencies mainly for our domestic artists as well, where we send them abroad, European or worldwide. For some international artists, we only work in Austria. For some, we do like neighboring countries towards the east, south as well. We have about, let's say, we work with about 80 different artists, and about a quarter of them is domestic. The size of the bands, when we promote shows, mainly in Vienna, we say we do shows from 50 people to 15,000, and we have a very strong domestic art roster with quite some big names. You probably won't have heard about them because most of them sing in German. Internationally, the most well-known artists are, like, for example, Olafur Arnalds, Ezra Furman, Moite, Algiers, and many more. So far, I don't think we have worked with Portuguese artists. Sadly, maybe that will change after that weekend.
Well, there's several Portuguese artists in the room already, and there's certainly more that will be around. So maybe you'll see something you like at Westway Lab.
There's a good chance, I'd say.
But I want to go back a few years and share a story with you guys that I think is a what I would say, hopefully it's a positive example of how Portuguese artists have crossed borders and started working with David in this case. I don't know how many years ago it's been.
2013.
So
yeah.
Back in 2013, before 2013, I was before Westway Lab.
2014 probably.
Maybe around there.
Yeah.
So a Portuguese manager by the name of Jorge Pizarro and myself went to an event in Puglia called Medimex in Bari. And George, of course, was managing an artist by the name of Frankie Chavez. And Frankie was invited to perform at Medimex, which is a showcase festival that we didn't know. So we went to Bari. I think that was the first. Oh no, that was the second edition.
Second.
Yeah. So we did know because I'd been there the year before, and we had George and I had very specific aims for Frankie in terms of securing distribution, PR, booking agencies, and so I made a list of several Italian booking agents, and Musicstrada and David was not on that list because I didn't know Musicstrada and David.
I know the story now.
You didn't know that part.
No.
Okay, so full disclosure, not on the list. And so we're at the INES stand because it was before White Portugal. It was still the Independent Trade Association that was leading on the international efforts. And we're at the INES stand, and George comes running and says, "Oh, I met this really cool guy, and he's a booking agent, and he's coming to see Frankie." I said, "Oh, he's not on my list. Who is this guy?" And sure enough, we went together to Frankie's show. It was a very, very big venue. I remember.
Yes.
Almost like it was a convention center, but it felt like an airplane hangar. It was so massive, and he played a hell of a show with that awesome drummer. What's his name?
Joka.
Yeah.
Joao Correa.
And so David right away sort of jumped on it and closed the deal with George to become Frankie Chavez booker in Italy.
I closed the deal week after.
Oh, and we met. We met at a gas station on the way.
We met
out
on a
to
gas
Bari.
station. We were in a Panda.
I was in a Fiat
Yes,
Panda. Yes.
I think the cheapest car.
Yes.
Now you rent a Mercedes, right?
No, I still rent the
No?
Panda.
Okay.
When I go to Italy, I rent the Panda. Yeah, because I like driving, so I flew into Rome.
Yeah.
And I hate flying, which is funny. But I flew into Rome and rented the Panda and went to Medimex in the Panda.
Yeah.
And but what I wanted to ask, I was telling this story because I wanted to get to this question. And you said that you sometimes think as a manager also. So what was the plan that you and George put in place for Frankie to develop his career in Italy And if you could tell us the story of the years that followed, because then I sort of lost track of what you guys...
Yeah, we did great things in Italy, I guess, I think. But the strategy was that I told to George that if he wants to get into the Italian market, he needs to do promotion, and to find a good distribution for the record. That at that time was always, good to do because it was his first record, I think it was Family Tree, yes. And I found a good deal with the press office. I found a good distribution, Goodfellas, that is the best one in Italy for that kind of music.
It's a great name.
It's a great name, of course, Goodfellas, based in Rome, you can imagine, And if it was in Naples, it was worse, but, in Rome it's still, reasonable.
In Napoli, I would not...
Depends. We did big things in promotion. I mean, Frankie went 3 times in national TV in Italy. 3 times. It was incredible. I never saw someone coming from nothing like Frankie Chavez and go 3 times on national TV in Italy. We did all the major public radios in Italy, a lot of interviews, and we did a tour with, I think, was 8 gigs in 10 days, something like that. Some of that was not so full, some of that was very full, and that's why I began everything. But Frankie has really good music, really, really good music. And because he's a surfer, in Italy there is a lot of interest about surfers, people were curious to listen to a Portuguese guy that was playing not Portuguese typical music, but he was playing Americana music in a completely different way, and people were really impressed by the way that Frankie Chavez was playing blues, rock in a completely different way. So the process was this one. I mean, George was we found together a good distribution, a good press office, and that's it. I made it simple, I know, but.
But it's a way to start, how you have to start.
But first of all, I was a great, lovers of the music of Frankie. The first time that I put the CD in my home, I said, come on, this guy will never work with me. It's too huge for me, too much. I really think about that because for me was incredible,
Well,
you have to love the music you're working with,
I think that's clearly what I remember George saying, is that how amazing it is to find a business partner, but a business partner who really clearly is into the music.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes, I don't know if, again, full disclosure, sometimes we can kind of lose track of that passion every once in a while.
It happens
in the darker days of our existence. So we don't have a Portuguese example for Austria yet.
Not yet, no.
But can you think, Reini, of a similar story for maybe an artist from the Netherlands or Belgium or Germany, or maybe not Germany because that's almost the same market,
it's always the first step either way. But actually I have a story I like a lot because it dates back to my early days in the business. Was with an American guy called Ezra Furman. I don't know if some of you are familiar with him. By now, pretty big, selling I think about 3,000 tickets in London and played Coachella Festival, etc. We started to work with him in Austria in 2010 or something like this. Back at the old company, and we just liked that guy. We had some business connections with his then label Minty Fresh in New York, I think, and they sent it over and said, bring that guy to Europe, how do you like it? And we instantly fell in love, and there was this big hit, Take Off Your Sunglasses, on his second record, was it, at that time? And we started to work with promotion in Austria and pitched it to the alternative station in Austria, which is called Radio 4, quite similar to your Radio 3, I understand. And it became sort of an alternative summer hit. And then we could start to work with that guy, booking him in Austria, and had some great shows for him. I was even tour managing him back in that days, which was quite funny. And yeah, that's how it all started, with like one hit at the Austrian radio, and then he became bigger, and by now he's working for an English agent, and we still work with him in Austria. And when he comes back to Vienna, he always is like about selling 1,000 tickets. And yeah, you gotta start somewhere, you gotta start with passion, you gotta start small, but it can develop if everybody is putting a lot of effort into it, I think.
So it's curious because you chose an American artist as the example.
Yeah, that is a coincidence.
Coincidence.
Yeah, totally.
So would you say for the Austrian market, and the difference between Ezra and Frankie being, would you say that the Austrian market is also able to be a successful market for an artist from a peripheral European country that doesn't play Coachella or Glastonbury, but that starts from a grassroots level in Austria, building it up that way? Or is
I definitely agree, especially in the terms of the wide alternative field we all work in. So if there's a good radio editor that likes that music, or if there's a good agent that likes the band, we don't care where they're from. It's important in terms of like structures around, or like export offices, etc., to get some funding or some base to start with. But for the audience and for the kids that go to concerts, I don't think that nationality or origin does matter a lot, as long as the music's good.
Without giving away any sort of confidential information on what people earn in promotions in your respective countries, what level of investment would you say is necessary for a label or a manager or an artist team to put into radio promotion and PR in Italy and in Austria in order to sort of get it above the line where the returns in terms of tickets at concerts begin to be interesting?
It's very complicated. I mean, as much as you can is the easiest answer to say, but I don't think there is a level of investment that makes you successful. I mean, Frankie, for example, did a good investment, but not that much. It's more important to find the best way. I mean, for example, in Italy, you will never go to the main radios. Except for the national radio, a couple of them, not all the three, because all the big company owns that. So it's almost impossible if you are independent to go in the main radio. So it doesn't make any sense to spend 5,000 euros in a press office and to ask them to go to Radio DJ, Radio Monte Carlo, that has this big company, because you don't have the chance unless you are with Universal, Sony, or big labels. I think nowadays it's really important to work in a different way, to find a good press office. Don't invest too much, not too much. I think 1,000, 1,500, maximum 2,000, You have to think that you have to be present sometimes. When you do promotion in Italy, you have to be there. Frankie came to make, TV, to make radio shows, so you have to think about that kind of investment. You have to travel, you need money to travel, to stay there. And it's more important for me to make a good promotion in social network now. It's cheaper, it's more direct, a good, strategy there, it's more important. There is I can tell you that you can pay 5,000 euros, 10,000 euros, it doesn't make any sense in my opinion.
But you're saying with the right artist and the right strategy, an investment of 2,000
it's a
plus
question of
the travels.
It could be a good way to start.
Okay.
I mean, the first time Frankie spent something like 2,000 euros, but we were lucky because we found a very good press office that is based in Rome. That it's really important because the main radios, national radio, are in Rome and in Milan. So these guys, they are very smart, They go to take a coffee with journalists. They have lunch with, Italian style, So they were the right people in the right place at the right moment. It's complicated. And Italy is a 60 million country. It's pretty big. So.
Okay. Reini, what about Austria?
It's a bit more easy in our country, I'd say, because it's smaller, so easier to get to know people and to get to know the right people. But still, there's no formula that works on everybody. It's different from artist to artist. For some artists, it makes sense to invest a lot of money in promotion and then play one or two key shows that make sense for them. For others, they start with just touring around and getting the audience from the scratch and from the basis with playing a lot of live shows. So you gotta look at it individually. And of course you can invest everywhere a lot of money, but just a huge amount of money doesn't mean that you'll get any success out of it.
No.
So
I agree.
And for artists that are interested in looking at your markets as prospective new markets, would you say that right now, are there any specific music genres that are sort of like potentially have a better opening or a better opportunity in Italy and Austria than other genres that might not be so in right now?
it's not really. I'd say cloud rap and hip hop is doing well these days as everywhere, but there's a niche for every genre almost.
Okay.
The wide field of alternative music is still working quite well in Austria. As we both are rather in the agency part of music, for us the opportunity or the possibility to have a lot of live shows is important as well. For mainstream artists, with our big mainstream radio stations, those are the artists that don't tour a lot. So you can have a lot of airplay there, but still people won't show up for the concert because a lot of those stations are listened to on like the workplace, and it's like background music or something like this. So this doesn't necessarily mean that then you have a live audience. So
Well, I have to say that in Italy, of course, trap and hip hop are nowadays, for young people. But there is still a good network about everything that is rock that doesn't necessarily have to be American or English rock. It has to be something that really represents in a certain way your culture. Like, for example, I always say Frankie Chavez, because again, Frankie Chavez was playing blues and rock, but in a different way, and people feel that. So rock is still a good network in Italy. Yeah, we have a lot of venues, some good festival in summertime. So yeah. No.
Speaking of the venues, how like I remember, for example, in Austria, when I used to work with Klaus at Ink Music back in the day, there were a lot of small venues, and there was a touring circuit where you could do 6, 7, 8 dates, club dates, and sort of build it up gradually. Is that still the case in Austria, and is that also how it still works in Italy, or has there been a shift either in the type or in the size of venue that's worth talking about?
well, in Austria, you have Vienna, which is a huge city, 2 million almost, and there every big international artist stops. So you have the small bars from 50 people to the big halls with up to 20,000 people. They're building a new one these days too for 20,000. And besides that, you have the main cities in Austria, like the regional capitals of certain counties, where you got decent venues that range up to 1,000 people, and some smaller ones too. The number you said, 7, 8 dates is possible for an artist that sells 200 to 300 tickets in Austria. Then there still are on the countryside a lot of very great local cultural institutions, people that get together in a certain town and that are bored with their local cultural things, so they start something new from the scratch, and they come and go, but they are always around, and those are some fun things you can add. And then we have rather okay festival scene with a lot of mid-sized festivals that go up to 2,000 people a day or something like this. They don't have a lot of international artists, but some do, and then a handful of really big festivals like everywhere else in Europe, I'd say.
Well, in Italy, I would say to divide Italy in 2-3 parts. You know, there is the north of Italy and the center of Italy. That is the place where you can do a real tour. And then there is the south of Italy that it's really different. There are not so many venues. It's pretty far. And I would say that the best place to tour, at least in winter, autumn time, in the venues, you know, it's the north of Italy. There is a good network. I mean, in every city there are a lot of small and bigger clubs. We don't have big clubs in Italy. We have venues up to maximum 3,000 people, and then the bigger names go into, we say, Palasport. It's the place where you play basketball, you know. So yeah, there are a lot of small venues up to 50 people, up to 200, 300 people. And a good way to make a tour in Italy, again, is to tour in the north of Italy. Tour in Milan, Venice, Bologna, it's really important, Florence, Pisa, you know, yeah.
Down to Rome.
It's complicated because I don't work in the south of Italy in wintertime for many reasons, because the band that I manage, the Italian band, are based in Florence, one in Pisa, one in Rome, and the other one is half of the band is Florence, and the other half is Naples. So if I go to a map and I see the distance between Florence and the south of Italy, there is Austria, Switzerland, Germany in the same range of kilometers. That pay better, pay faster, pay before, pay. Just pay. Okay.
But geography generally is an issue all the time, especially if you're like for Portuguese bands, you're like located in the most western part of Europe, and to have a proper tour in Middle Europe, to get there already is like an investment and creates more costs. And same for venue owners or for international artists touring. If you have like a 10 dates tour you can fill it within the middle of Europe without stretching too far and keeping your costs low, then people rather do that.
Yes, I've done the hand finger trick with Lisbon or Porto or anywhere in Portugal, and the finger doesn't really reach very far. So it's or unless you want to go swimming or surfing.
Of course.
But anyway, it's by the way, we're having a conversation. So if anyone has any questions or any comments, feel free to jump in. And I also still hope Tabeah turns up to say a few words before our time is up. But I was also wondering about, I know this is going to be obviously an easier answer for David, but I always like to ask for an agent's of what comes to mind when you musically think of Portugal, and I because 10 years ago I remember I went to meet them one time. I don't think it was Eurosonic, I think it was Midem, and they said, "Oh, you're from Portugal, what fado artist do you work?" And I said, I don't work fado, so you need to update your image of Portugal. And he said to me, "No, you need to update your image of Portugal." I said, "Oh, yeah, okay, you're right." So how is it nowadays? Well, when you think of Portugal, what do you guys think of musically? Other than Frankie Chaves. You can't say Frankie Chaves.
Well, that combo.
That combo, okay.
Yeah, I love them, that combo. And Terracotta, I work with Terracotta, and of course the new fado, like Anna Moura is new, Marisa. I saw, which is the name of the other fado girls that was playing in Santiago?
Gisela João.
Gisela João, and I know the other guy, Sam Malone.
Yeah.
So because of Frankie, I discovered new things about Portugal that I didn't know. I mean, the rock scene in Portugal, the alternative rock, folk, roots, music scene in Portugal, it's really interesting in my mind. Really, really interesting. So in my mind, Portugal is not only fado. It is, of course, fado. I'm a huge fan of Custodio Castello. I'm a huge fan of Ana Moura or everything that is Fado. But in my mind, Portugal is pretty different. Really different. Yeah.
Right?
Well, I gotta admit, I'm not an expert on Portuguese music, so I could name drop a bit, but doesn't make a lot of sense. So for me, there's no real picture outside the classic thing you know about the music scene in the country. As for example, Fado. Everybody knows Fado, and that it's connected to Portugal.
But you see, I am to blame for this, because now I'm going to tell another story about Reini, because the first time we had the first edition of Westway Lab, we invited an artist from Austria, a project from Austria, to come to one of the artist residencies, and they were called Ghost Capsules. And Reini was the agent for Ghost Capsules. And so initially I invited Reini to come to the first edition of Westway Lab with Ghost Capsules, because we always like to have an agent or a manager come with the artist. And what happened was, I don't quite remember how, but the manager for the project was Daryl Bamonte. And Daryl ended up taking the invitation to come with Ghost Capsules. And so Reini got the short end of the stick and didn't make it to Westway in 2014. And that's why he's perfectly justified in answering, well, I don't know very much about Portugal because you didn't get me here 6 years ago.
So the step is paid. So.
Well, because I've been trying to get him here ever since, because I have a tendency to feel bad about things that don't pan out the way they should. So I felt a responsibility to invite Reini. And funny enough, Daryl, just to finish the story about Daryl Bamonte, Daryl loved Westway Lab so much that he kept coming. So he's been here 5 times. And this is the first year that he's not here.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's because
Daryl and I come along quite easily, so we're not fighting or anything.
I'm like, I've invited Reini and Daryl is missing.
No, but yeah, true. That was in 2014, I guess. And Ghost Capsules enjoyed it a lot, and I think you're like one of the first showcases that is like that artists teaming up and like from different countries and giving them the chance to create something, as everything in our profession is about creativity in music. I think that's a very nice approach, and I really liked that. And they had fun here. Sadly, they split a few months afterwards, so the project is not around anymore.
But not before they got a sync, I think, with some of the work they did with. So Ghost Capsules came to do an artist residency with José Figueiredo from Peixe Vião, if I recall. And I think whether through Daryl or one of the music supervisors that was here, I think they ended up getting a sync out of the work that they did together. I can't remember whether it was something they co-wrote or whether it was just an aesthetic. I can't recall. But I remember there was an immediate result and a sync deal that came out of that residency. And just to also give credit where it's due, and because it's your first time here at Westway, and because you brought up the residencies, when we sort of presented the idea to Rui Turrinha, the festival director of Westway, to do a showcase festival and conference, he said, well, yeah, but they already exist all over Europe. I don't want to do something that's the same as something else. And I said, yeah, but they don't exist in Portugal. So we need one in Portugal because we don't have one, and we're not part of ETEP, and we need to be at Eurosonic, and we need to be part of ETEP and provide a platform for the internationalization of Portuguese artists via Eurosonic and ETEP. And Rui said, no, I don't want it. It needs to be different. So I said, well, phone me back when you reinvent the wheel. And he did. He phoned me back 2 weeks later, and he said, I've got the idea. So we do the conference, we do the showcase festival, but we also do artist residencies. At which point, I was like thinking to myself, what the hell are artist residencies in music? Because I've never really seen that before outside songwriting camps that publishers sometimes organize.
But it's a good approach, a different approach, because as your partner said, like basically there's like a showcase festival in Europe every month or even more, and so you gotta stand out a bit. So
every week now, I think.
Could be, yeah. Lost track somehow.
What ended up happening that I thought was interesting is that because we had the artist residencies as well as the regular showcases, we had to start explaining this to agents. And I wanted to get your opinion on this. If some festival you've never heard of in Portugal or Estonia or wherever phones you up and says, oh, we have an idea, we want your artist stuck for 10 days in the same place, earning just a very small showcase fee, is that sort of an immediate turnoff for a booking agent? Or can a booking agent kind of also, I know you're going to see it from a management perspective, but can a booking agent look beyond the commerce into the usefulness of an artist residency, or is that something that you're just not interested in?
Depends of the period of the year. I mean, not July and August, please. 10 days in July and August, no. I mean, I'm talking about business, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Just business, but you know, it's interesting. It can be useful, of course. I mean, it's a way to create a different kind of network. Musicians most of the time can give you, you know, a lot of contacts. I used to work with many musicians that give me contacts of, you know, promoters, managers, a booking agency. So I think it's a good idea. Not in July or August. Even June. Okay.
And Ryan, you said yes with Ghost Capsules, so...
Well, it can be another way to start to get into a market or to create something. And usually you don't play showcase festivals when you already have like a big career. It's mostly at the start of your career. So it can be an adventure as well and a fun time. You get to know new people, you hang out a bit, you party a bit. Yeah, it's nice.
Well, I'll tell you how the end of the experiment panned out, because Rui started going to Eurosonic, of course, to invite the ETET artists to do the regular showcases at Westway. But he also started inviting artists from Eurosonic to come to the residencies. And what we found was a very, very clear divide between the answers that came from continental European agents versus UK agents. And so my question was a bit of a loaded question when I asked, you know, what you guys thought of the artist residency concept, as long as it's not in June, July, or August. Because we clearly found that managers like Daryl, and you know, UK managers like Daryl understood the concept of an artist residency for exactly as you said, to make new work, networking, eventually material that could be interesting for Sync. And that went great, but as far as the agents, yeah, it was not an interesting proposition. And, of course not. Yeah.
You can't charge a commission.
Right. Well, a commission on 150 is a very small commission.
It's not what the invoice is.
Yeah. Or 300 for the showcases. But so we have very little time left. Tabeah doesn't appear to be materializing. Yeah, I know, but yeah. But if she comes in, we can still ask her a few questions. Yeah. For sure.
I think she's 10 minutes away.
Yeah. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi. I'm Violetta. I just have the residency showcase tonight and my own showcase tomorrow. I'm Italian.
And what's going to happen after this panel? We're going to go to the Lab Lounge for a little hangout, and then it was another idea of Rui's to basically have the artist talks with the artists in residency. And what happens there is we go to a cafe, and you know, usually we don't warn the artists about what happens there, but since you're here, what happens there basically is Rui asks some questions about the creative process, because we want to hear about what happens at the Creation Center of Candoso and how you begin working with artists that you've never met before, and sort of talking about the creative process. And then inevitably these sorts of conversations between the artists and the delegates sort of break down into a sort of question and answer of how the creative process can then start mixing with the industry and how for example, a residency can turn into a side project, which is the case, for example, with a couple of years ago we had Nelson, We Bless This Mess, worked with the band from Hungary called Ivan and the Parasol, and then all of a sudden they have a side project called the Milonas, who recorded an album in Budapest and toured I don't know where, and so sometimes these things lead to other things. But are there any further questions, or should we release the agents and head over to the lounge?
I have one for Reinhold. You were talking about the promotion of Frankie Chavez, and you mentioned that he was a surfer.
For Davide.
For David, yes.
For that, sorry.
Okay.
Was there any concern on the promotion regarding that audience, or no concern at all?
Well, you mean if the fact to be a surfer was, yeah, of course. I mean, the first big interview in Italy in Repubblica, that is the daily news, bigger paper in Italy, newspaper in Italy, was about the Frankie Chavez, the songwriter, blues and surfer from Portugal. So surfer was in the title. Was important because it was something that gives something very specific, very particular. Otherwise, was another guy playing Americana music, but that kind of things was really important. But was because of the press office that was really smart, to tell to the journalists that he was a surfer, that Portugal was becoming the new land of surf. That I think is true, because of Nazaré, because Frankie Chavez wrote a song called Nazaré that is dedicated to this small village that maybe you know better than me. So, it's because of the press office. Yeah. You have to find something really that makes you different, if you play Americana music. I have a band in my roster. It's called Ilaria Graziano and Francesco Forni. They are from Naples, but they play Americana music. But we did a huge tour in Canada. It's like selling ice to the people that lives in Canada, They have, But, I don't know, selling sands to people that lives in Sahara, it's the same, But because they have something very particular, because they sing in 4 different languages, French, Spanish, English, and Italian, and you can hear that they are from Naples, from the south of Italy. You hear that they are very different, really different. And the way that they present themselves, it's really different from a classic Americana style, the hat, the skirt like mine, so they are very, very different, You have to find something that makes you particular, to create curiosity. And for Frankie was the fact that it was not only, but was a surfer as well. Yeah. And because he was playing the Portuguese guitar in a very different way, with open tuning, with the amp.
Yes, I remember the Portuguese guitar because Jorge Bizarro, I hope he doesn't mind me telling the story, but in order to sort of...
I'm discovering a lot of things.
In order to communicate Frankie outside Portugal, George put the Portuguese guitar, the fado guitar, in Frankie's hands and said, "Listen, play this, because it's going to be different, and we're gonna talk about the blues sensation from Portugal, and this is a story that we can tell that sets you apart."
Yes, that was really intense.
So I think that was George's idea and not Frankie's idea, but we'd have to double check.
Yeah.
But so whether, if I'm hearing your answer correctly, whether it's surf or the Portuguese guitar played in a blues rock scenario, that's what sets you apart. Yeah. Good. Any other questions? Okay. Well,
we're perfect.
Antonio?
I'm an export booker from Portugal. Have been planning European tours and national tours for Portuguese and Brazilian musicians in the past 5 years. And from your experience, or from my vision, I can either contact directly the festival programmers and directors and go try to reach a direct bridge to the client, or I can put efforts on establishing partnerships with other agencies from other countries that will work my artists. So there's these two
Yes.
strategies.
Of course.
Which one do you think brings more results?
I think a good idea is to go directly to a couple of venues, a couple of festivals, to book a couple of shows, and then with a couple of shows to find a booking agency. To tell to the booking agency, look, this band already has a couple of shows in your country. So we are in your country in this period. Would you help me to find more concert? Because go to the booking agency and tell, I have this band that is the best band in the world. Everybody say that, you know.
Yeah.
Would you make me a tour? Yeah, of course I want to make a tour, but it's difficult. If you book one concert, this I'm talking about my experience, my personal experience. This doesn't mean that is the best way to work, but in my experience, when a booking agency tell me this band is already playing 1, 2, 3 shows in your country, it's much way better because you will be in another country with something concrete. If you start with zero, it's difficult. And you can go with a booking agency, of course. I mean, it's a lot of years that I go in a conference like this. I work mainly in World Music Network. It's did a bit different, I went to BubbleMed, Womex, and I spend a lot of time to talk directly with venues and festival to realize that in that case, if you talk with festival, you book one show. If you find a good booking agency, the booking agency find you 5 shows or more. Mm-hmm. So of course it's better to find a booking agency always, but with something concrete in your hand. So if you contact me and you tell me I have a show in Milan in mid-July, the band is already there, that show will help to cover flights, will help to cover a part of the cost of the tour, it's of course better. So this is my opinion anyway.
One last question. No last questions, no famous last words. All right then, let's give a warm